Express term. Term or representation. Bannerman v. White. Objectively looking at the importance of the statement. If it is deemed to be fundamental to enticement into the contract, it is a term. Row 2. Express term. Term or representation. Routledge v. McKay. A term needs to be included in the written contract, and in addition, the longer the period of time prior to contracting a statement is made, the more difficult to argue is term. Row 3. Express term. Term or representation. Oscar Chess v. Williams. The relative expertise of each party will affect the importance of a statement that a party makes, and therefore be a relevant factor in considering if a term or representation. Row 4. Express term. Term or representation. Bentley v. Smith. The relative expertise of each party will affect the importance of a statement that a party makes, and therefore be a relevant factor in considering if a term or representation. Row 5. Express term. Term or representation. Shaw v. Reed. If one party dissuaded another from taking a check with a statement made, the party that dissuaded the other will have taken on the risk that the statement is false, and it will be a term of the contract. Row 6. Express term. Oral term override written. Couchman v. Hill. The time the statement is made, the expertise of person making statement, and the importance left parent objectively right parent to the buyer. If factors are met, oral will override written term. Row 7. Express term. Parole evidence rule. Jacobs v. Batavia. The written contract is the totality of the parties' agreements. No evidence can be led about oral representations. Row 8. Express term. Parole evidence rule. J. Evans and Son v. Andrea Merzario. Parole evidence rule can be bypassed by either finding a partly written/oral contract or an oral promise-induced entry into contract, and constitutes a bilateral contract. Row 9. Express term. Parole evidence rule. City of Westminster v. Mudd. A promise to not enforce a term of the contract creates a collateral contract. Row 10. Express term. Parole evidence rule. Entrepreneur Pub v. East Crown. If a contract is comprehensive and includes the entire agreement clause, left parent contract is the only agreement we have. Unless written in this document, it's not binding right parent, then parole evidence rule stands. Row 11. Express term. Unusual or onerous terms. Parker v. South Railway. In order to incorporate an unusual or onerous term by notice, reasonable steps must be taken to draw attention of the other party to the term. Row 12. Express term. Unusual or onerous terms. Interphoto v. Stiletto. The more onerous or unusual a term, the greater degree of notice that must be given. Big Reed and. Row 13. Express term. Incorporation. Thornton v. Shoe Lane Parking. A clause cannot be incorporated after a contract has concluded. Row 14. Implied terms. Left parent common law, right parent implied in fact or law. Shell v. Lostock. A term will be implied in fact to give effect to the imputed intentions of parties. A term will implied in law to give effect to general considerations relating to particular relationships and circumstances. Quote officious bystander. Quote. Row 15. Implied terms. In fact, M.C. Cutchian v. M.C. Brain. A term can be implied in fact when the course of dealings between the parties suggests that they always contracted on a certain basis. Row 16. Implied terms. In fact, British Crane Hire v. Ipswich Plant. A term can be implied in fact when it may be so commonly used in a particular trade that it can be assumed that it was intended to part of a contract arising in the course of that trade. Row 17. Implied terms. In fact, the Moorcock. A term can be implied in fact when it is reasonable to assume that a party contracted to look after someone's property has ascertained that the place of storage is safe. Row 18. Implied terms. In fact, Sherlaw v. Southern Foundries. Both the quote business efficacy test quote and quote officious bystander quote test attempt to identify what the parties ultimately intended. If it is found that there is an implied term not included through this test, it may be implied in fact. Row 19. Implied terms. In law, Liverpool CC v. Irwin. Only terms that are deemed necessary by the nature of the contract will be capable of being implied by law. Row 20. Implied terms. Sales of Goods Act 1979 S14 left parent 2 right parent and left parent 3 right parent. Lambert v. Lewis. The goods must be durable at the time of sale and must remain fit for their particular purpose for a reasonable time after delivery. Row 21. No implied term under 14 left parent 3 right parent where circumstances show buyer did not or would be unreasonable to rely on skill and judgment of seller. Row 22. Implied terms. Sales of Goods Act 1979 S14 left parent 3 right parent. Balmoral Group v. Borless Ltd. If a party bringing a claim from breach of SGA 1979 S14 left parent 3 right parent is in a greater position of expertise with regards to design and manufacture for the purpose to which that good was bought. Row 23. It is unreasonable to rely on the skill and judgment of the seller. Row 24. Classification of a term. Condition. Poussard v. Spears. A term that goes to the root of the contract is deemed as a condition. Row 25. Classification of a term. Warranty. Bettini v. Jai. A term that does not go to the root of the contract and so is deemed as being less important as a warranty. Row 26. Classification of a term. Innominate term. Hong Kong Fur Ship Pun v. Kawasaki Kaisha. Where a term cannot be determined to be a condition or warranty. The effect of this is that effect of the breach of the term is considered. Row 27. Where a breach deprives the innocent party of substantially the whole benefit of the contract, it can treat it as a breach of a condition. Row 28. If the breach cannot be found to meet the criteria of being treated as a breach of a condition, it will be treated as a breach of a warranty. Row 29. Classification of a term. Effect of prior classification by parties. L. Schuler AGV Wickman Machine Tool Sales. Prior classification of a term does not fix its classification in law but can be influential to the courts when determining